If you clicked on this, it's no coincidence. Something inside you already knows. Maybe you felt it after a long day of talking, laughing, being on for everyone around you, and then you come home, sit in silence, and feel completely empty, drained, like something was taken from you but you can't quite name what. Most people will never question that feeling. They'll just scroll, distract, and go back to the noise tomorrow. But you're here, which means part of you is asking a deeper question. What is all this socializing actually doing to me? And today, we're going to answer that through the lens of one of history's most brutally honest philosophers, Arthur Schopenhauer. A man who didn't just prefer solitude, he argued that it was absolutely necessary for anyone who wanted to think clearly, live deeply, and truly know themselves. What you're about to hear might make you uncomfortable. It might challenge everything society has told you about connection, friendship, and being social. But if you stay till the end, it might also be the most freeing thing you've ever listened to. Let's get into it. Why constant social interaction can weaken independent thinking. Think about the last time you had a truly original thought. Not something you heard in a conversation, not an opinion you picked up from someone else, but a raw, genuine idea that came entirely from within you. For most people, that's hard to remember, and Schopenhauer believed he knew exactly why. He wrote, "The more you interact with others, the more you dilute yourself. Every conversation you enter, you are, consciously or not, adjusting, adapting, shrinking or expanding based on the energy in the room. You start filtering your thoughts before they even fully form. You think about how something will land before you even finish thinking it. Over time, this becomes automatic. You stop thinking for yourself and start thinking for the room." This is what Schopenhauer called the great intellectual danger of constant socialization. Not that people are bad for you, but that too much of them, too often, leaves no space for your own mind to breathe. The human mind is like a muscle, and independent thinking is a skill. But just like a muscle that never gets to rest and recover, a mind that is constantly reacting to others never gets the chance to actually think. It just responds. It just performs. Schopenhauer was clear. The greatest thinkers, the most creative minds in history, almost all of them had one thing in common. They protected their alone time fiercely. Not because they hated people, but because they understood that solitude was where real thinking happened. When you're alone, your thoughts are yours. No audience, no approval seeking, no filtering. Just pure, uninterrupted consciousness doing what it was built to do. Explore, question, and understand. So ask yourself honestly, when was the last time your mind was truly alone? Not distracted by a phone, not half listening to someone, but genuinely, quietly, alone with itself. If you can't remember, that's exactly the point. How shallow conversations drain mental energy over time. Now let's talk about something nobody warns you about, the invisible cost of shallow conversation. We've all been there. The small talk at a gathering, the "how are you? Good, good" exchange. The conversations about weather, gossip, what someone watched on Netflix. On the surface, they seem harmless, effortless even. But Schopenhauer argued something that modern neuroscience is now beginning to confirm. Shallow social interaction is not neutral. It is draining. Here's why. Your brain doesn't distinguish between deep conversation and surface-level noise in terms of energy expenditure. It is still processing social cues, managing emotional tone, reading body language, choosing words carefully, maintaining a social persona. All of that is happening even when the topic is completely meaningless. You are spending real mental energy on conversations that give you nothing back. Schopenhauer described most social gatherings as, and I'm paraphrasing here, a marketplace of mediocrity, where people exchange words not to illuminate truth or deepen understanding, but simply to fill silence, to feel less alone, to perform normalcy. And the tragedy is, the more you participate in this kind of interaction, the more you normalize mental shallowness. Your standards for what a conversation should feel like begin to drop. You stop craving depth because you've forgotten what depth tastes like. Think about how you feel after a long night of socializing where nothing meaningful was said. There's a specific kind of tired that comes with that. Not physical tiredness, something deeper. A flatness, a quiet dissatisfaction. That is your mind telling you it was fed nothing. Schopenhauer believed that a person of real intellectual depth should be selective, almost ruthlessly selective, about who they give their mental energy to. Because every hour spent in shallow conversation is an hour not spent reading, thinking, creating, or simply sitting in the richness of your own inner world. Quality over quantity, always, in everything, but especially in who you allow into your mental space. And hey, if what you're hearing right now is hitting different, if this content is making you think, please take a second and like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe if you haven't already. It genuinely helps more than you know. Now, let's keep going. Why solitude is essential for clarity and self-awareness. Schopenhauer once said, "A man can be himself only so long as he is alone." Read that again. Let it settle. We live in a world that treats loneliness as a problem to be solved. The moment someone says they prefer to be alone, the world responds with concern. Are you okay? You should get out more. You need people. But Schopenhauer was making a radical distinction that most people miss. There is a difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is an absence. Solitude is a purposeful fullness. When you are truly alone, not distracted, not performing for anyone, something remarkable begins to happen. The noise fades, and in that silence, you start to hear yourself, your actual thoughts, your real feelings, the things you've been too busy, too social, too distracted to notice. This is where self-awareness is born. Most people go their entire lives never truly knowing themselves. They know the version of themselves that exists in relation to others, the funny one, the responsible one, the quiet one in the group. But who are you when no one is watching? What do you actually believe? What do you actually want? These questions can only be answered in solitude. Schopenhauer observed that the greatest human fear isn't death, it's sitting alone with yourself. Because in that silence, you have to face your own mind, your contradictions, your unresolved questions, your real desires versus the desires you've been told to have. And most people would rather scroll, socialize, and stay distracted than face any of that. But the ones who do face it, who choose solitude deliberately and regularly, develop a kind of inner stability that no social validation can ever provide. They stop needing to be understood by others because they understand themselves. They stop looking outward for answers because they've built the habit of looking inward. Solitude isn't isolation. It's the practice of coming home to yourself. The hidden pressure to conform in social environments. Here's something subtle but deeply important. Every social environment you enter carries an invisible pressure, a gravitational pull towards conformity. You feel it the moment you walk into a room, the unspoken rules, the acceptable opinions, the kind of humor that flies and the kind that doesn't, the topics you can raise and the ones you quietly leave behind. Nobody tells you these rules, but you know them, and you follow them almost without realizing it. Schopenhauer saw this as one of the most dangerous aspects of social life. Not the obvious peer pressure, but the subtle reshaping of who you are, thought by thought, conversation by conversation. He believed that the average person, through years of social conditioning, loses the ability to think in ways that deviate from the group. They don't just change what they say to fit in, they eventually change what they think. The performance becomes the person. Consider how many of your beliefs are actually yours. How many of your opinions were formed in solitude through real reflection, and how many were absorbed from the people around you, from social environments, from wanting to belong? This is not a comfortable question, but it's a necessary one. The pressure to conform in social environments doesn't just affect your opinions. It affects your ambitions, your lifestyle, your definition of success, what you think is worth pursuing, what you think is worth saying. Schopenhauer argued that the truly free individual, the person who has escaped this invisible cage, is the one who has spent enough time alone to know the difference between what they genuinely believe and what they've simply absorbed from the crowd. Freedom, in his philosophy, isn't political, it's psychological. It's the ability to think a thought that nobody around you is thinking and trust it anyway. How too much exposure to others can disconnect you from yourself. This is perhaps Schopenhauer's most confronting idea and the one most relevant to the world we live in today. We are more connected than any generation in human history. More conversations, more interactions, more exposure to other people's lives, thoughts, opinions, and emotions than ever before. And yet, rates of anxiety, identity confusion, and a quiet sense of emptiness are at an all-time high. Schopenhauer would not be surprised. He believed that the self, your true inner self, is like a signal, clear, distinct, and meaningful when conditions are right. But the more noise you introduce, the weaker that signal becomes. And in a world of infinite noise, infinite social input, many people have lost the signal almost entirely. When you are constantly surrounded by others, you are constantly receiving information about who they are, their preferences, their moods, their versions of reality. And slowly, subtly, without any dramatic moment you can point to, you start absorbing their frequencies. You start wanting what they want, fearing what they fear, defining yourself through comparison. Am I doing better or worse than them? Am I as happy, as successful, as likable? This is what Schopenhauer meant when he said too much exposure to others disconnects you from yourself. It's not that other people are your enemies. It's that when the volume of outside influence is too high for too long, your own inner voice gets drowned out. And then one day you sit with yourself in silence and you realize you don't quite know who you are anymore. You know your social role, you know your reputation, you know how others see you. But you, the real you underneath all of that, that's a stranger. The antidote, as always for Schopenhauer, is deliberate withdrawal. Not permanent isolation, but regular intentional time away from the social world. Time to let the noise settle. Time to hear yourself again. Time to remember what you actually value, feel, and believe when nobody else is in the room. So, let's bring it all together. Schopenhauer wasn't an antisocial misfit who hated people. He was a man who looked deeply at human nature and saw something most of us are too busy to notice. That the social world, as beautiful and necessary as it can be, also carries a quiet cost. Constant interaction weakens the muscle of independent thought. Shallow conversations drain us in ways we don't even register. Solitude, real deliberate solitude, is where clarity lives, where self-awareness grows, where you finally get to meet yourself without an audience. Every social environment applies a silent pressure to conform, to shrink, to fit. And when you spend too much time in that pressure without relief, you lose the thread back to who you actually are. None of this means you should close yourself off from the world. Connection is human. Relationships matter. But Schopenhauer's gift to us is the reminder that you matter too. Your inner world matters. Your thoughts, when nobody is listening, matter. Protect your solitude like it's secret, because it is. Choose depth over noise. Choose your own company sometimes, not as an escape, but as a return. Because in the end, the most important relationship you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. And that relationship can only be built in silence. Thank you for watching this till the end. If this video made you think, made you reflect, or gave you something real, please like it, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and subscribe to the channel. It means everything, and it helps this kind of content reach more people who are genuinely searching. Until next time, stay deep, stay aware, and protect your peace.